What up, though, and welcome to the Kurt Steele Podcast, your trusted source for Detroit Lions news and rumors. I'm your host, Kurt Steele. Make sure you go over to kurtsteele.com to check out the content over there and follow me on Twitter at CurtisSteele14. On today's show, I'll talk to some members of the Roar of the Lions UK, a Detroit Lions podcast from across the pond. We discuss how they turned the Detroit Lions fandom into a digital show that crosses several platforms. And they share their thoughts on the current state of the team. Buckle up, Buttercup, and watch your kneecaps. It's time to start the show. Welcome back. I'm here with Tom and Ryan of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. Now, there are other members of the show that couldn't make it today. Could you tell us about those guys?
Right, do you want to kick off? Or
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, we've got the one of the creators of the podcast. That is Matthew. He's from Bristol, and he's just come back from a trip in the US. We've also got Anthony, who's in the Midlands, Chesterfield. Him and myself do the college podcast on a Wednesday, which will be later on. We've got Stephen, who flies the flag of the North. He's all the way up in Scotland. He's also on the show. And then we've got writers as well. We've got Ashley, who does a lot of the stuff on the website, writes articles and posts. We've got people like that. So there's a collective, like say 5 or 6 people put this together. We've also got Ryan and Martin. They do like in-season stuff as well. So they do a lot of the Mondays and Thursdays post-game and pre-game reviews. So yeah, there's a good 6 or 7 people that do work in, and then there's people in the background as well that in the Discord submit writings and work that go onto the blog and the website for us.
Okay, well, that's great. Now that we have that established of, who you guys are, let's talk about how you became fans of American football.
Yeah, so I used to watch Super Bowl a little bit when I was a teenager and things like that, but like a lot of Brits who are kind of into their sport, they'll watch the Super Bowl and nothing else. Especially when you're at college, right, and you don't care about staying up late, you'll do that no problem. But wasn't that into football at that age. And then actually a housemate of mine in London, he was a passionate Falcons fan. So he would every Sunday sit down and watch the games, which start at 6 p.m. our time. And I started to watch a little bit more of it and I guess got into it that way. And then one year, just about 9-10 years ago, I was like, okay, now I've probably got to get into it. I need to find a team. And obviously you can't just choose a team. It takes a bit of time to kind of fall in love with someone. So yeah, a bit of time to find a team and it kind of took off from there. And I think both me and Rye then went on to play a bit of football over here as well. Obviously we watch it. I worked in the NFL a little bit as well. So it's become a big part of all our lives.
Right. Now, how about you, Ryan? How did you become a fan of American football besides playing?
Yeah, as Tom mentions, in the UK, like I said, I went to college, university. I stayed up late a lot at night. And if you go back, like UK and the NFL, it's taken off like last, I'd say 5-6 years. But if you go back to like last 10 to 13 years, there was a point where there was just like one game on terrestrial TV. On a Sunday night, you had Channel 4, you had Mike Carlson, you had Nat Coombs, and that was kind of all you got. So I started off watching one game a week that was all available without a subscription, staying up because I had all that energy. Getting up on a Monday morning was still fine. And then, yeah, it took off from there. Like I say, I started watching the Lions when I could to get the occasional Monday night game. And then, yeah, I got to university. And then, like I say, I was all in like 6 years ago because I was watching it. I was watching college football. I had ESPN subscription. I had Game Pass. I played for my year at university. Like I say, once I left there for like a year or two, didn't really, like I say, I was watching but not doing much. And then I joined my adult senior team. So I played like a good part of like last 3 years. So while following the Lions, also getting as well on the field. So that really helped me understand the game greater by playing it as well as watching it. Because you just kind of get that bigger grasp of what you're seeing because you're kind of living it too. So yeah, Lions fan for about, I'd say 10, 11 years now. But I've been watching it for like 13, 14 over here.
Well, speaking of the Detroit Lions, because this is kind of rare air for me. When and how did you choose to root for the Detroit Lions?
So I think actually with all many of the Royal Lions team, their soccer teams are not the best. They're not in the top leagues. They're lower down guys. So I think in general, we're used to supporting teams which aren't, let's say, not always succeeding. And the UK is full of Packers fans and Pats fans. And I don't know, for me, it was, I refuse to glory support a team. I feel like sport is such an emotional investment. If you just like skip straight to the winning, it doesn't mean anything. So you've got to pick a team that you feel like you can be along for the journey a bit on. It's been a slightly longer journey already in this 9-10 years than I was expecting, but that's half the fun, right? So for me, there was something quite British about the way the Lions found ways to lose games in unique ways. A team with loads of history, no recent success, again, kind of similar to the England soccer team. Love what Detroit stands for as a place personally as well. And let's be honest, at the time they had Megatron, right? So if you're new to the game and you see there's a player called Megatron, are you kidding me? And then you watch him play, like you had this young, exciting team. You had Megatron, you had all those bits. For me, it was kind of I fell in love with them pretty quickly to my pain and misery over the last 10 years. But yeah.
Okay. What about you, Ryan?
See, at the time of finding Detroit and becoming a fan, my soccer team, Bradford City, we were doing really well. Like we were trying to get into those like upper tiers, and that has since tailed off. But Bradford and Detroit, I just saw lots of similarities. Bradford is a textile, industrial, large city with a big population, but it's not the most affluent. It's not the most desirable, but it's a hard-working background, and I feel like Detroit is very similar to that. Bradford City's got a massive stadium. It's got a big football team that's just struggling, but it still carries the flag as like what it means for the city. And I feel like the Lions do that for Detroit. Like I said, they're a big team, got a lot of history, but they're down on the luck. And like I said, we had Sue, there was Levy, there was Tulloch, like I say, Raiola, you had Rife, you had like Stafford, Calvin. So you had a lot of guys that were easy to root for. And like I said, they obviously had their own 16, but they were very competitive despite not always having the best win and loss record. They were a gritty team. They went down. There's a lot of tough guys there now. And I just kind of fell with that. I only got to see them on TV so often until I could buy a Game Pass subscription and watch them weekly. Because I didn't always have that access, like going back the last 10, 12, 13 years here. So, and then just fell in love ever since. Like I said, I've got the merch. I collect memorabilia. There's a signed Swift helmet up there. There's a signed Barry helmet on the floor. I've got signed jerseys. And that side as well has just taken off in the UK. A lot of people now collect signed memorabilia and have just kind of gone NFL mad.
Okay. Now, we've talked about your fandom for football and your fandom for the Lions. Now, how did that transpire into a show or a podcast across multiple platforms?
Right. Yeah, I'm new to the team, I guess. So I feels like this is one for you to kick us off with.
Yeah, see, I was kind of new, and what did it for me was COVID. I joined like 2 years ago. Now, there was a previous host that helped create the show with Mantonat. He's now left, but I saw them. I followed Roar Lions on Twitter first. I didn't really know everything about them. And the first thing I did was, I think I wrote an article, or I wrote a blog on their website. I joined their Discord about 18 months, 2 months ago. And they're like, does anyone want to have a go? Does anyone want to come in and just do an interview and speak about themselves? And to this day, I still hate listening to my own voice. I don't like being recorded. Like I watch some episodes back, but I try not to. And I've probably done about 100 episodes now. Like I say, it's absolutely flown in the last 18 months, 2 years. Like NFL players getting to interview them because I've just bombarding people with messages. And then the college football show, because I'm more college football than I am the NFL. I just love it more. So then we started the Wednesday show because I got someone that wanted to talk about it too. It's kind of just taken off there now. And yeah, it's just become a second nature now. I've become at home in front of the camera.
Do you know when the show started?
I think it was about two and a bit years ago. And I joined about 18 months ago. So I'd say call it 2020. I think it was around then.
And I think was there the Facebook group originally, and then I think a message went out on the Facebook group being like, does anyone want to talk about this a bit more? Does anyone maybe want to do a podcast? And then a few people put their hands up. Obviously, as Rai said, it started as that, and then now suddenly a bunch of social channels. It's not just one show. There's the college football show. There's a Thursday show. So Yeah, it's continuing to grow, which I think is the exciting part. And like for me, as someone who's relatively new to it, it's awesome to see what the guys have created. And occasionally I can just drop in and hopefully help a little bit too. But it's amazing to see that. And then the community, like Twitter obviously has its own kind of pitfalls sometimes, but there's such a great Lions community on there as well. And the Discord channel, some of the chats we get into, whether it's Lions, other NFL, other sports, we're talking about the Pistons, and like we're talking about next year's NBA draft and things on there too. And you get all these passionate sports fans who want to talk about Detroit and the Lions and everything around it. It's just really cool to see what it's become.
Thank you for joining us right here on the Kurt Steele Podcast, your trusted source for Detroit Lions news and rumors. Now, getting back into some of the content, where are you guys located within proximity of each other? Like for the individuals that's on camera doing the shows, like how close are you guys to each other?
Yeah, we're not that close. Stephen, who's not in the show, he's in Scotland. So he's like 5-6 hours away from me, all the way up in the north. I'm in West Yorkshire. So if you dropped a pin in the middle of England, it'd land pretty much in me. I'm central. And like further down, and then Ryan, Tom, Matthew, they're all hours away. They're all down in the south. Tom's down in London. Matt's in Bristol towards like Land's End. So yeah, we're spread out across the entirety of the UK, from the top all the way down to the bottom.
Wow, that is interesting to see a group of diverse Detroit Lions fans from England, and you're all over the place. That is awesome. Thank you guys again for joining us. Now, I have to ask you a serious question before I let you go. What are your thoughts on the current state of the Lions?
I like the fact we've had a couple of days since the weekend, so we've got some of that out already. Look, I mean, it hasn't been the start of the season we wanted, right? And especially, I think when we had the Commanders game, it looked like everything was starting to come together nicely. Massive disappointment, obviously, last week with the Pats and the week before. I'm maybe not as negative as some in that these things happen with young rebuilding teams, and we're gonna get blips. I thought we were going to struggle the first half of the season anyway. I was hoping maybe for 2 or 3 wins rather than 1, but here we are. So look, I think we can easily point to things which we'd like to be sorted. Whether it's defensive backfield, whether it's getting pressure, obviously in quarterbacks, there's a bunch of things. It's easy to start questioning things and picking holes when things don't go your way. At some stage, we got to ride it out with some of these young guys. Hopefully, keep seeing development. I'm confident that we're going to keep seeing steps forward, especially in the second half of the season. But it's definitely, well, it doesn't look like it's going to be that, are we going to be able to compete for maybe a playoff spot at the end of this year? I just don't think we're there yet. So no alarm bells, like major alarm bells for me yet. But yeah, it's been a little disappointing to say the least.
Ryan?
When we did our season predictions, I said 8-1. I was very on the fence about this team because we know it can be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And so far, the offense has been the good guy. The defense has been the scary monster that hides under your bed. Like I say, one's had to carry the other quite a bit. But I've reined that back in now. If we get 5 or 6 wins, I think that's not still too up in the clouds. It's very achievable. But injuries, they've reared their ugly head again, haven't they? Like I say, the defense is really struggling now. We're bringing up those practice squad guys every week. Hopefully over this bye, we're going to get some guys back. The draft has been pretty fruitful so far. Kirby wasn't expected to play. He has now been thrown in there, whether he liked it or not. And I think it's going to do him the world of good. Hutch has shown those flashes, like say he had the big game. He's generating pressure. He's not necessarily finishing, but you learn the art of finishing. Malcolm looks like a steal. And within, like, say, next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have Jameson Williams. So for me, this season is just bedding in these young guys. The veterans are the one that are letting us down. But yeah, up and down coaching. Ben Johnson's putting some things in that I like. So we're trending in the right direction. Yeah, we're not going to be in a case of making the wild card this year. I think we'll get like 5-12 now. But yeah, things are looking up. Like I say, it's just the defense that just has to raise itself a little bit. But yeah, they're very understaffed.
All right. Thank you. I am talking to Ryan and Tom from the Roar of the Lions UK podcast. Tell my audience how they can find your show.
Oh, I think I'll take that. So the first place to find us is on Facebook. You've got the group, which is Detroit Lions One Pride Worldwide. If you put a submit to join in there, we've got fans from nearly every country in the world that all come together. And then if you're looking for the podcast, Roar of the Lions UK, you've got YouTube, you've got Twitch, where we both go live, Twitter, ROTL/_, and then Instagram, ROTL._UK. So we've got lots of social media as well. We're part of Lions Nation Unite with Herman Moore. You can find all the things through there. But yep, Mondays and Thursdays we do post, we do pre-game. Wednesday we do the college, do shorts as well. So yeah, we're active all throughout the week. And if you want to join the Discord, message us on Twitter and we'll throw you in there. We've got about 20, 30 channels. It's not just NFL, it's everything. And like I say, we've got a very diverse, broad group there.
Well, thank you guys again for joining me right here on the Kurt Steele Podcast, your trusted source for Detroit Lions news and rumors. And we'll be back to close out the show. Thanks for joining me today on the Kurt Steele Podcast, your trusted source for Detroit Lions news and rumors. Make sure you check out the Roar of the Lions UK podcast and follow them and me on your favorite social media platforms. Thanks to As Uno Beats and YouTube for our theme music. Until next time, this is Kurt Steele, and I will holla at you real soon.